All right. Welcome. Welcome to Prayer and Practice. My name is Ian, and I'm finally back after being gone for a few weeks. Like I said, I know I said this before, and I don't know why things keep getting my way. I suppose the devil really doesn't want me to talk to you guys. But I keep saying I want to do a live stream every Tuesday at 7. And it just keeps not working out, but I'm going to try and get more consistent with it. So, uh, give me some mercy there. Anyway, enough of that. What I wanted to talk about tonight was I wanted to talk about faith and disability. All right, so you probably can't really see it that well from where I'm at, but I'm a wheelchair user, and I've been a wheelchair user for it'll be 20 years, September 25th. So on September 25th, it'll be 20 years that I became physically disabled. And over those 20 years, it's been a real journey, for lack of a better word. It's been a real journey for my faith, because, see, I grew up in a Christian household. Okay, I grew up in a Christian household, and my parents were Lutheran, and they always made sure that I went to a Lutheran school, and so I grew up in the faith. I grew up believing in Jesus, and I grew up believing that the Bible was true. However, at the age of 10, I had something very rare and very deadly happen in my life. I had what was called ADEM, also known as ADEM, and that stands for acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, which I know is a mouthful. But basically what happened was, in a split second, my own immune system attacked my spinal cord and my brainstem. So whenever people ask me what my condition is, I never know if I should call it an injury or a disease, because it's a little bit of both. I personally identify with it more as an injury than a disease, because it's not ongoing. That's why it's called acute, because it has a sudden and rapid onset, and it doesn't develop. It's not like other progressive diseases that get worse over time. It just has like a really, really, really severe onset. Although not all cases are as severe as mine. Mine was the most severe case that you could get, because it literally happened in the worst spot, which is my brainstem, and it happened really fast. I'm talking like within minutes. If you research ADEM, you'll find that the faster the onset, the less likelihood you have of survival. And that's in part because the brainstem controls your breathing. And so if it happens really fast, it shuts off your breathing, and it becomes a race against time for them to get you on a ventilator so that you don't die. I actually had to be airlifted by a helicopter to the ICU the day this happened. And so, that's a little background about my condition. But what I really wanted to talk about was how it affected my faith. Okay, because a lot of people see wheelchair users and they see people who have physical disabilities, and I don't think they fully understand the effects that it can have on a person's faith, because depending on the disability and also all the surrounding details, it can inform the way that you view God. Because, like in my case, mine happened at a very young age. I was 10 years old, and it happened very quickly. It was a beautiful sunny day, and it happened out of nowhere. And so, growing up, that made it difficult sometimes for me to trust God. Because, it's like when you read in the Bible and it talks about God being your protector and your defender, and, that He has good plans for your life, it becomes very difficult sometimes to see God in a positive light. In fact, I probably spent close to 20 years really despising and hating God. I was really angry. I mocked God a lot. I felt like He hated me. I had a very adversarial relationship with God. Now the weird thing is I was never an atheist. I was never an atheist. I always believed God existed. But there were times in my life where I was so angry at God that I spent a lot of time attacking Him, and I spent a lot of time trying to hurt Him the only way I knew how. Because I knew that He was powerful, all powerful, and I knew that He could do anything, that there was really nothing I could do to truly harm Him. But one of the things I used to do was I would read the Bible, and I would find promises that I felt that He hadn't kept, and then I would read them mockingly and be like, see, here's a promise you didn't keep, and here's a promise you didn't keep, And one of the verses that used to make me really angry was in Isaiah 53, where it says, by His stripes we are healed. And, I grew up and always hearing that you just declare that by His stripes you're healed. And, I used to pray that all the time, by His stripes I'm healed. But then I'd still be physically disabled. And that used to make me really angry. And so, now as I've gotten older, I went back and I read Isaiah 53, and it's very apparent to me now, as an adult, that Isaiah 53 is not really about physical healing. That Isaiah 53 is about our spiritual healing, about Christ's death on the cross and our redemption, saving us from sin. That it does say He bore our diseases. And so, yes, He did purchase physical healing for us. But by His stripes we are healed. That is not exclusively about physical healing. And it's not really a promise of physical healing either. And I believe Christians do people a big disservice when they quote that verse as though it's some magic spell that you can declare to heal people. Because when it doesn't heal people, people like me get discouraged, and we get disappointed, and we start to doubt God's goodness and His promises. And I think Christians need to realize that when they take scriptures out of context and they try to use that like some magic spell they can say to heal people, and then it doesn't heal people, they need to be very careful because that can damage people's faith. Like when you say, by his stripes we are healed, and you say that like a magic spell, like you can heal someone with it, like you're doing that person a disservice because now they're wondering, well, why aren't I healed? Right? Now, why aren't I healed? And that's because that verse isn't even about physical healing. It's about spiritual healing. But people in the charismatic movement quote it like they can use it to heal people. And, Jesus can heal people, but he didn't give us a book of spells, right? He told us to trust him. He told us to trust him and to want his will over ours. And so, like, Bible verses aren't meant to just be like spoken like spells that you can just pull out and be like, well, I declare this, right? It's like, well, okay, fine, but that isn't really the entire purpose of those scriptures. And like I said, if you use them that way, you can set people up for disappointment. And then they say, well, why isn't God keeping his promises, right? Because by his stripes we're healed. And then if they're not healed, they're like, oh, that means God didn't keep his promise. It's like, no, because that wasn't what the promise was, right? The promise wasn't physical healing. The promise was spiritual healing. The promise was salvation from our sins, right? If you read all of Isaiah 53, it's about Christ's death on the cross for our sins. I mean, yes, he did purchase a degree of physical healing for us because it says he bore all our diseases. But given the overall context of Isaiah 53, it's talking about our spiritual disease of sin, not just our physical diseases. Even though our physical diseases are related to sin because it's related to, the fall that happened with Adam and Eve. So like there is a degree in which sin and disease are connected. But healing of sin does not always equal healing of disease. And it's important for people not to conflate those things. Because, like I said, it can create a lot of false promises, people can start expecting things of God that God never said. And, going back in my own life, right? Like it used to damage my faith because I would read those things and I would declare them and believe them with faith. And then I wouldn't see what I was told would happen. And, that damaged my faith because then I'm like, why isn't God doing what he said he would do? And the truth is that wasn't what he said he would do. And so, we need to be really careful with how we use Bible verses, especially as it regards to disability and healing, because it can just lead people to have a lot of weird ideas about who God is and what he does. Everybody wants a miracle. Everybody's desperate for a miracle. Everybody wants to be physically healed. Like there are very few people that are, physically disabled or have some type of disease and think to themselves, I don't wish that God would heal me. Most people want God to heal them, and they believe for that healing, but it doesn't always come. And the truth of the matter is, God isn't going to perform any miracles that don't bring people into his kingdom. God only performs the miracles that bring people closer to him and bring people into his kingdom. And to be real honest, most people, if they were healed, would squander their healing. They would squander it. Like when Jesus healed those 10 lepers, only one of them remembered God. The other 9 went their way and went and did whatever they wanted. Only one of them actually remembered God, right? And so, but that's the truth. I mean, a lot of people, if they were healed, if you asked them, if God healed you right now, would you use your healing for the specific and only purpose of spreading his kingdom? Most people would probably not do that. Most people would be like, no, I want to go back to living my life and doing what I want to do for myself. And so God, he's not going to heal people if they're not going to use their healing for his kingdom, So, yeah. And then, what else do I want to say? I am actually doing a one, but I'll wait till you leave. I said I am actually doing a live stream, but I'll wait till you leave. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I was telling them, I was talking about disability and faith, and how the two things are connected, and also how, one affects the other. That's basically what I was talking about tonight. But, sorry about that, I was talking to my mom. Yeah, so, what was I going to say? I was going to say that, another thing regarding, how certain Bible verses, affect people's faith is that, because there is a focus on healing Bible verses, sometimes people will exclude or ignore the verses that talk about like waiting on the Lord or trusting God through certain circumstances. And people, some circles, like, they don't even read those verses. They just go straight to the verses that they think are about healing. And, sometimes God isn't, he isn't asking us to believe for healing. Okay, like sometimes he's not asking us to do that. Sometimes he's just asking us to trust him with with what he's allowed us to go through. And, like when I read about Paul, right, Paul had the thorn in his flesh that he prayed for healing for it 3 times. And God said, my grace is sufficient for you, right? Like, God didn't remove it. And so after a while, Paul stopped praying about it because it wasn't God's will to remove it. So, sometimes you just have to accept what God puts in your life. And like that's not very popular. It's not a very popular thing. But it is sometimes what he asks us to do. In fact, I would argue that it's what he asks us to do more often than not. So, yeah. Yeah, what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I was also going to... Oh, that's my dog. Keep getting distracted here. Apple, stop it. Sorry about that. Ooh. You know what? I'm just going to do this next week.
I'm going to take him out right now.
No, I'm done.